Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am just another tinfoil hat. Welcome to my Friday night Screen Screams review, where I will discuss what spooky movie has attracted my attention, spoiler free, of course. Today, I will be talking about a horror movie that has a 100% rating on the Rotten Tomatoes, like critic side of voting rating, I guess. And of course, I went into this thinking I'll be the judge of that. Of course, I am talking about Anthony DiBlasi's 2014 movie, Last Shift. The premise is simple, and when I read it, I was already thinking to myself, how can this possibly be as good as they claim it is? A rookie cop, Officer Jessica Lauren, played by Juliana Harkavy, simply has to sit in the old police station and wait for a hazmat team. That is it, that's the shift. It was supposed to be done already. All other stuff from the station had been taken over to the new station. 911 calls had been rerouted. It's just that there's all of this leftover evidence that has some biohazard stuff, not like Resident Evil biohazard, but just blood and stuff like that. Just needs to be picked up by hazmat. It's supposed to be done, but whatever. It seems easy. Of course, if it was, I would not be talking about it. We learn that Officer Lauren's father was also a police officer at this very station, but died in the line of duty in some incident. Almost immediately, it starts getting spooky. First, it's some drunk guy outside that Officer Lauren tells to just go home. No big deal, but it's still enough to set you on edge. She is alone in this abandoned police station in the middle of the night. And just that simple interaction was enough to be like, make sure the doors are locked, which she does. Then the calls start from a woman named Monica who claims that she has been kidnapped. Lauren attempts to alert the news station to the calls, only to be told that it shouldn't be happening. All 911 calls have been rerouted. So, really, nothing should be coming through at the old station. One of the big scenes that spooked me early on was when Lauren goes into the locker room and finds one of her father's personal effects, a picture of the two of them, lodged in the back of his locker. As she closes the locker, she notices that a door has opened by itself. No big deal. Stuff shifts, right? She closes that one, turns around, and every single locker in the entire room is open. Now, it is this truly low budget, yet effectual scene that just really does it for me in a movie like this. In my opinion, the film really captured the feeling of a haunted location very well. The constant sounds of someone there, the feeling of a presence as conveyed by our lead character. She goes, she looks for the disturbance, she doesn't find anyone, little things being amiss, before going totally haywire. It starts when the lights go out. Officer Lauren hears someone in the place and finds not a ghost, but the drunk guy from earlier has made his way back into the station. She puts him in lockup, but as she is doing so, the door slams shut and mysteriously locks behind her. Then she drops her flashlight, which is picked up presumably by the man. Nope, an unseen force. This is one of the currently freaking scariest scenes that I have seen of late. To have this flashlight hovering in the air, taunting her, going back and forth. She can't see anyone behind it. There is no one else in the room. She keeps demanding that whoever it is gives it back, even though we, as the viewer, know no one else was in there. It was very high stress, high anxiety, spooky. And then, as if it couldn't get worse, the singing starts. See, kids, this is where we find out that there was a cult, the Paymans, of course, heavily influenced by the infamous Manson family, operating in the area. Apparently, apprehended at this very police station. The story goes that they were killed in a gunfight at their commune. However, in what I consider to be the most terrifying scene in the movie, genuinely, this scene just unnerved me so much, and we'll get into it right after this. We learn that that is not true. In my opinion, the scariest scene in this movie is another one which doesn't really have any high class effects or truly any super duper scares. In a movie that genuinely kept me in a heightened state of terror for the entire time, this was oddly a kind of low point in that high octane anxiety. Officer Lauren sees that the back door is open, goes out and finds a woman, Marigold, loitering on the premises smoking a cigarette. She tells Officer Lauren that the story of the Payman family's deaths is not true. They did not die in a gunfight at their commune, but rather were brought back to this very police station, where they committed mass suicide in their cell. The scene was so effective for me. And again, this is not a high octane, very stressful scene. There was actually less threat in that scene than the rest of the film, but it was just so effective to me because of Marigold, played by Natalie Victoria. Her mannerisms discussing this are just so believable. And the way that she kept looking back at the station, it just had the gravitas of someone looking at a haunted house. It feels like if you've ever had the pleasure of someone telling you their scariest story, this is what it felt like. And it was just chilling and a perfect way to kind of reset the narrative and give us more information. On the topic of haunted houses, I just have to say about this film, fantastic ghosts. Sometimes it seems as though filmmakers shy away from doing strict ghost stories. It seems like they think ghosts aren't scary or something. In my opinion, this and the Netflix series The Haunting of Hill House beg to differ. These ghosts were freaking scary. Excellent harbingers of death and decay and despair and fear, and then they just vanish. Literally, this movie as well as again Hill House, both are proof that you can make a ghost story and make ghosts themselves a very effective element of horror. I will say, I genuinely loved this movie. I super enjoyed it. This is an example of when you take a bunch of stuff that is supposed to be scary and it actually turns out scary. Abandoned police stations, the Manson family knockoff cult, ghosts. I loved it. And the response of Officer Lauren felt rational. In the face of what seemed to be impossible events, she kept trying to rationalize. But when it came too much, she did call for help, her boss, who insisted that she was just too stressed out and probably couldn't take the job. And finally, when she realizes that come hell or high water she wants to escape, she can't. These responses they felt very rational. It felt like very good pacing as far as the psychological stress on Officer Lauren. Weirdly enough, I guess this film was remade in 2023 by the same director with almost the exact same story as Malum. After reading the plot, in my opinion, this one sounds like it was a lot better from what I've seen on the internet. Most people say it was. I will probably give Malum a watch just to compare because that is such an odd concept to me that you would remake the same movie so close. I mean, this isn't something that was made in the 90s or something. This was from 2014, and then 9 years later, like, I think I can do it better with pretty much the same story. It seems so weird to me. But again, the weirdest thing to me is that this was pretty much a perfect horror movie, so why remake it? When I say pretty perfect, I will be honest. I would almost give it 100%, but there is that almost. Literally, the last minute of the film drops it to maybe a 95, 96% for me. But of course, that would be a spoiler, which is only available in part 2 of this review, available through my Patreon. Well, if you have seen this movie, feel free to offer your opinion in the comments, and if you haven't, give it a watch. If you're in the mood for something which is genuinely really scary. I mean, most horror movies, they're kind of scary and they'll have a few moments that are like, ooh, very spooky. This one was scary, 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 spooky, scary, scary, scary. Now, yeah, genuinely, I loved this movie. If you want to hear part 2 of this review where I discuss spoilers to the end of the film, check out my Patreon. If you like listening to people talk about movies and around spoilers, or anything else weird and anomalous, go ahead and subscribe to my channel. Be sure to ring that bell to keep up with my latest videos. For today, I am Zelia Edgar, signing off.